Right now at 11, local Holocaust survivors speak out in the wake of the white supremacist march in Virginia.
Cal Poly students banding together over a costly mandatory orientation that, if missed, could cost them admittance to schools.
And 2 people arrested following a suspicious death investigation in Cayucos. New details are emerging tonight. KCOY 12 News starts right now.
Live from your home team, KCOY 12 Central Coast News at 11 starts right now.
Uniting against hatred, bigotry, and racism. That was the message tonight as hundreds in Virginia to condemn the violent acts over the week, honor the victims, and start bringing a grieving community back together. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Melissa Mahan.
And I'm Scott Hennessy. Many similar events of unity have been taking place all over the country. We begin in San Luis Obispo, where the message was no more hate.
A display of solidarity saw hundreds of people gather for a candlelight vigil tonight. KCOY 12 Sean Larson was there, and he's live for us from Mission Plaza. Sean?
Scott and Melissa, there was easily over 1,000 people here earlier today, and this, of course, in response to that deadly incident in Charlottesville, Virginia over the weekend. Now, earlier, I spoke with people who told me why they said they had to be here.
Just
Stand By Me, a fitting song for their message.
This is a time when we need to get together. There are vigils like this all over the country.
And they did come together for a large candlelight vigil at Mission Plaza in San Luis Obispo Wednesday.
We have to stay focused. We have to stay together.
Rabbi Janice Maring was one of several speakers, including people from the Muslim community, the NAACP, a priest, and a Buddhist monk.
My message for people is to not get burnt out with the constant barrage of chaos and hatred that we're seeing.
Organizers say the vigil's purpose is to stand in peaceful solidarity with protesters across the United States who are resisting racism and hate crimes, and to honor the victims of the Charlottesville protest. It's estimated that over 1,000 people made it out here, some people making signs and making their voices heard.
no justice, no peace.
Heather Hare, who, rest in peace, the last quote that she put on Facebook is, "If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention." And she's a hero.
The vigil was organized by the Democrats of San Luis Obispo and the Women's March of SLO with the support of 18 local organizations.
What's our schedule that day and how are we going to get here? That was what went through our minds.
Charlottesville is a community very much like San Luis Obispo. It's a small rural community, college town, and I think that there are a lot of parallels between ourselves and Charlottesville, and we stand with them.
And I'm told there's a similar event this weekend in Santa Maria at the corner of Betaravia and Miller Street. That's Sunday at 2 p.m. We'll add that information with this story on our website. Live in San Luis Obispo, Sean Larson, KCOY 12 Central Coast News.
Sean, thank you very much.
Family and friends gathered in Charlottesville today to honor a young woman killed during this week's hate-fueled violence. More than 1,000 people packed the city's Paramount Theater to honor Heather Heyer, who was killed when a white nationalist rammed his car into a crowd of counter-protesters on Saturday. Heather's mother says this is just the beginning of her daughter's legacy.
We don't all have to die. We don't all have to sacrifice our lives. They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her.
Evidence of her daughter's message felt tonight in many cities across the country.
The Jewish American community showing its anger with President Trump by rallying outside of Trump Tower earlier tonight. Hundreds of demonstrators were there to criticize President Trump and his recent comments defending far-right protesters. Local Holocaust survivors are speaking out in the wake of the white supremacist march in Virginia.
KCOY 12's Tracy Lair spoke with a couple in Goleta today and has that part of the story.
Jews will not replace us.
Prior to the deadly violence in Virginia, freedom of speech allowed these white supremacists to shout, "Jews will not replace us," and the Jewish media going down. Holocaust survivors say it wouldn't be tolerated in many other countries.
In Germany, you can be arrested and get 3 years in jail. And in Europe, France, Poland, and South America, Brazil, all prohibit this kind of behavior. And these guys are marching around with torches just like Hitler did, yelling, "Death to the Jews."
Retired doctor Stan Ostern of Galita lost most of his family in concentration camps.
And Hitler wiped out 6 million Jews, and I'm one of the survivors. I was lucky enough to be hidden in a bunker underground for 2 years, from the age of 7 to 9. My grandparents said goodbye to me, and they were rounded up in the ghetto and sent to Belzec concentration camp.
His wife and artist Edith Ostern is a survivor too, and says there are better ways to exhibit Confederate statues.
Those generals, those presidents will still be in history books, they'll still be remembered, but they won't be memorialized. They won't be standing in the middle of a town square for everybody to worship.
Both share their stories to prevent history from repeating.
What did the Jews ever do to them, particularly to them? This really touches me. I like the Elie Wiesel's quote, and I'm going to read it here because I forget what it is. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. So we have to protest.
And they say speaking out now is more important than ever. Tracy Lair, KCOY 12 Central Coast News.
We cannot, and in no way can we accept or apologize for racism, bigotry, hatred, violence, and those kind of things that too often arise in our country.
The nation's top law enforcement official denouncing racism, bigotry, and hate today. Jeff Sessions joining other Republican leaders, including House Speaker Paul Ryan and Senators Marco Rubio and John McCain, who responded to President Trump's refusal to cast blame solely on white supremacists for the violence in Charlottesville. The reaction is part of the continued fallout from the violence over the weekend and the president's fiery press conference yesterday.
Today, President Trump disbands his business councils as corporate leaders and politicians distance themselves from the president's recent remarks on Charlottesville. Stacey Cohan reports.
The mass exodus of business leaders from 2 presidential business panels prompts President Trump to dissolve both groups. 8 people left the Manufacturing Council after Trump's Charlottesville remarks. 3 business titans left another advisory group following earlier controversies. The chorus of criticism that erupted Tuesday afternoon following the president's passionate statements on Charlottesville continues to grow. But some stopped short of directly attacking Trump. Former presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush released a statement saying in part, America must always reject racial bigotry, anti-Semitism, and hatred in all forms. And Senator Mitch McConnell released a statement saying in part, we can have no tolerance for an ideology of racial hatred. Virginia Republican Scott Taylor addressed the president more directly.
I think that yesterday's conference, it was a failure of leadership. I mean, I really do think that was the case yesterday.
While Vice President Mike Pence, traveling in Latin America, took quite a different tone.
I spoke at length about this heartbreaking situation on Sunday night in Colombia. And I stand with the president, and I stand by those words.
Republicans would much rather focus on the president's agenda, but a senior White House official now says, quote, everything will be harder now. In Washington, I'm Stacey Cohan reporting.
And many of America's top-ranking military officers took to Twitter today to speak out against racial bigotry and extremism. 5 U.S. Joint Chiefs of the Navy, Marine Corps, Army, and Air Force made rare public statements condemning white supremacist groups in the wake of this weekend's racial unrest. U.S. military leaders traditionally uphold an ironclad commitment to stay out of politics.
All right, let's turn our attention to the weather now.
Yeah, Jason's standing by. Jason, pretty nice day out there today once the cloud cover burned off. How's tomorrow looking?
Yeah, it escaped a little bit sooner today than it did the day before, so a little bit warmer afternoon highs. Still looking similar tomorrow morning also. We don't have a lot of clouds over most of the area yet, but we will by tomorrow morning, so it's going to be gray and be in the 50s just like it was today, but look at those highs. Mainly 70s, Pismo Beach only reached 65 degrees today, and Paso Robles 81 degrees. Could easily be 101 this time of year, but thankfully it was not. We still have a trough over much of California and Nevada, allowing more of the onshore flow. But that's going to come to an end in a few days, at least temporarily. We expect a ridge of high pressure pushing overhead. Before that happens, still more low clouds and fog pushing right back onshore up and down the central coast. So a mild night tonight with plenty of gray by the time the sun rises. Overnight lows will be mainly in the 50s. Some lower 60s are also a possibility. More details on your 7-day forecast, including the potential of seeing that eclipse Monday morning, coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Jason. A City of Santa Maria employee was rescued from a radio tower this afternoon. That man was working on the Las Flores radio tower in Orchid, which is used for emergency dispatch. He started to feel faint and weak. One of his coworkers noticed, went up to try to help him. That coworker also started to feel weak, so he headed down to call firefighters. Both Santa Barbara County and Santa Maria City firefighters responded. They climbed up the tower and used ropes to bring that man down to safety. He was treated by medics for exhaustion, and they do think he will be okay. New developments in a suspicious death investigation in Cayucos. The Bakersfield couple found with the body have been arrested. Investigators say 59-year-old Darwin Keith Eliscari and his wife, 50-year-old Sherry Lynn Bogus, have been arrested on drug and child endangerment charges. A 13-year-old was with them when police came across the scene. The investigation began yesterday when deputies found a white Jeep parked in the wrong direction on F Street. They could smell a strong odor coming from inside of the SUV and discovered a man's body stuffed into the back of the car. Tonight, we still don't know how that man died. His name has not been released, but the couple arrested were apparently longtime acquaintances of him.
Santa Maria City Manager Rick Hayden announced his retirement today. He believes now is a good time to leave while the city is on a high note. Hayden oversees more than 700 employees and helps manage a $200 million annual budget.
I would say the mark of a good leader is someone who leaves an organization or a community better than what they inherited, and I hope that people think that of me. The things that I've mentioned was
Hayden's last day is December 5th. He says he has numerous projects he'll be working on up until his last day, including making a guide for his successor. Coming up on KCOY 12 News tonight, Cal Poly students pushing back against a mandatory orientation.
I think that's a little extreme.
We'll hear from upset students who are now circling a petition hoping to enact change.
And lawmakers want everyone to eat healthier. Details on how a new grant is helping Central Coast farmers and citizens.
KCOY 12 News brought to you.
Cal Poly has a mandatory student orientation, and the university has made it clear students who do not show up will not be allowed to attend school. Some students have created a petition saying with a price tag of $365, it's unfair for working students who have to pay for rent and groceries to take time off from work, or for those who simply don't have the money to pay for it.
I think that's a little extreme because a lot of students may not like or may not be as outgoing as the orientation days require them to be.
Should be strongly recommended, but I don't know if mandatory is necessarily, necessary.
Students hope the petition will force policy change at Cal Poly. If they do not attend the mandatory 2 sessions, students will not be allowed to take classes at Cal Poly.
Plains All-American Pipeline has started the process to replace its damaged pipeline more than 2 years after a devastating oil spill near Refugio State Beach. Permits were filed over the last 2 days in Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties. Kern County will get paperwork in the coming weeks. Plains is proposing replacing the roughly 130-mile pipeline with thicker walled pipe that is half the size in diameter as the current one.
The pipeline would be monitored 24 hours a day, the pressures and flows, so that we can work to maintain safe and responsible operation of the line.
Pipeline's been out of operation since the spill. The new pipe would be sized appropriate, they say, for current offshore production levels.
California just received a federal grant to encourage low-income residents to eat healthier. It gives anyone receiving food assistance more money to spend at farmers markets. The $3.9 million grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture will help those who receive CalFresh benefits or food stamps. Their buying power will double at participating farmers markets if you purchase healthy fruits and vegetables. One drawback, only 340 out of 800 farmers markets statewide participate in the program.
Loving our weather right now.
It's good stuff. You know, we can handle a little bit of marine layer in the morning, then it burns off, and Jason, beautiful afternoons.
It's been amazing the last several weeks. If you remember 3 weeks ago, we had a lot of monsoonal moisture making it very muggy. We haven't had that for a while, and it has been very, very pleasant. When we have clouds like these, though, it also makes for an amazing view. You can see those sunbeams right along the Gaviota coastline. Sarah captured that along the 101. A beautiful view from the south coast of California. Thank you very much, Sarah, for sending that photo in. When we have any kind of weather going on, I want to see what you're seeing at home. Take those photos, email them to me. You can send them to me on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll definitely share them for you right here on KCOY Channel 12. It was a fairly seasonable day for Santa Maria. 1 degree above average for the low, 1 degree below average for the high. Started the day at 55, had a high of 72. Very comfortable for us. It's still fairly clear. The mist is starting to push on shore. It'll be much grayer tomorrow morning. 58 degrees right now. The wind only 3 miles an hour, and quite comfortable up and down the Central Coast. 50s and lower 60s right now. Morro Bay with one of the warmest temperatures at 61. It's 62 in Paso Robles, 58 degrees in Atascadero, 55 degrees in Apomo, and 60 in San Luis Obispo. All the wind around the region at or below 8 miles an hour. The last several days we've been monitoring this trough of low pressure. Now it's a little bit further to the south and east, centered over California and Nevada, still providing that onshore push, allowing us to have more low clouds and areas of fog, but the ridge to our west is going to continue to push that further to the east. So late Thursday through Friday and Saturday, that will give us a little bit less cloud cover, fewer clouds in the morning, more hours of sunshine, and a little bit of a bump in the temperatures, but it won't be a drastic change, just a modest warming trend until we get to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, increasing clouds and also decreasing temperatures. Right now, not a lot of marine layer, but it will be there by tomorrow morning, and we can see that on Futurecast by 8 o'clock. We'll have plenty of low clouds and fog to begin your Thursday, mostly retreating out to the ocean, then coming right back on Friday morning. Same thing is going to be repeating late Friday into Saturday. We'll have a little bit more sunshine Friday afternoon and Saturday afternoon. It's important to have a little bit more clear sky. I'm sure you've heard that we have the solar eclipse coming this Monday morning. Now, there is the chance, unfortunately, that the marine layer clouds are not going to be our friend as far as this is concerned. Just after 9 o'clock, that is when the eclipse is going to begin from the Santa Maria viewpoint. By the time we get to 10:17, that is the maximum eclipse. About 2/3 of the sun's face will be covered. Hopefully we can see it. There's a chance we're going to have lots of marine layer clouds in the way, but we're going to continue to monitor it. It's too far out to know hour by hour how those marine layer clouds are going to behave, but we'll be definitely looking at it for you over the next several days and keep it here on KCOY Channel 12. We're going to keep you apprised of the situation. Here's your forecast for tomorrow. We'll have a low of 55 and a high of 75 in Santa Maria, 72 in Lompoc, 77 degrees in Orca, up to 85 very warm degrees in San Ynez, and 82 in Buellton. Paso Robles, 88 very warm degrees also, 78 in San Luis Obispo, 67 degrees for Pismo Beach, and 77 degrees in Apomo. And even when we have that warming trend, it's going to be a modest one for Santa Maria and Orchid, only to the upper 70s Friday and Saturday, increasing clouds and decreasing temperatures by Monday. That's the day of the eclipse, 70 degrees for a high. For San Luis Obispo, we climb to the lower 80s Friday and Saturday, a little bit more sunshine during the afternoon hours, then falling back down to the mid-70s. Paso Robles, a lot more sunshine coming, 95 degrees for a high by Saturday, but 85 on Monday.
Thank you, Jason. Still ahead tonight, we take a tour of Santa Barbara County Animal Services in Santa Maria. We'll have more on the helpful programs and how you can get involved.
This is what a cramp looks like.
And it could be the worst muscle cramp that we've ever seen. How to make sure this does not happen to you.
Introducing El Pollo Loco's new taco platters.
A broken shoulder, I have a broken wrist, a broken elbow, and I have bruises all over me.
In Milwaukee, a grandmother suffered extensive injuries after being beaten by teens at a gas station. 2 young boys and 1 girl beat the woman, stealing her keys, her wallet, and lottery tickets. McKinney says the ordeal was terrible. She hopes police catch the teens who did this to her. The worst part, she says, several people watched the whole thing and did nothing to help. Wow. This afternoon, a man was hit by a car trying to get away from the police. Officers saw 2 suspicious people outside of Lompoc High School who took off when officers approached them. One of them, Travis Stevens, was found hiding in the backyard of an apartment on the 500 block of L Street. Officers called for him to come out, but he ran into the street and was hit by a car. He then got up and continued to run away. Stevens was taken into custody and transported to the hospital. His condition is unknown.
All right, a health alert now. This one unlike anything you've probably ever seen. A guy is sharing his extreme muscle cramp today as a cautionary tale to take care of your body. Take a look.
This is what a cramp looks like.
Yeah, this cramp is bananas. He's got a big calf as it is, and it's just doing all kinds of things that it shouldn't be doing. There are ways you can avoid this painful ailment. Remember to stay loose, stretch out during and after workouts. Also, drink plenty of fluids. Muscle cramps do happen partly due to dehydration. Make sure you get your electrolytes and your potassium, and that's where those bananas come into play. Yikes!
I don't want to see that.
It's unreal, isn't it?
It's disturbing. It's like something's going to burst out, like in Spaceballs. That movie, remember when the little man comes out?
Total Recall, yes.
Well, but then
Comes
they make fun of it in Spaceballs. Yeah.
Right, yes they do.
Ugh, okay.
Either way, crazy.
Crazy stuff.
Stretch out, everybody.
Eat
Stay
bananas.
loose.
Yeah, there you go.
Still ahead tonight, they are redefining what it means to rescue cats from trees. We'll hear from a pair of arborists that some Seattle pet owners are calling heroes.
Plus, is this the worst first pitch ever? A complete look at this painful pitch from Boston. Stay with us.
Too late.
It's open house week for animal shelters in Santa Barbara County.
Yeah, the week presents a chance for the public to learn more about the many things County Animal Services is doing to rescue and protect animals. The Santa Maria facility boasts a vibrant volunteer program as well as an adoption and animal law enforcement program. They also reunite lost pets with their owners. In fact, employees tell us they're seeing fewer strays around the city.
Our intake numbers have gone down, so that's a good trend that we really like. And our adoption numbers are also strong, and we work with a lot of partners. So we've had a very successful live release rate. We're over 90% in our live release rate, which we're very proud of.
To learn more about the volunteer program, or if you're interested in adopting a pet, you can visit countyofsb.com.
All right, let's go to Fenway Park for a memorable ceremonial first pitch and a painful one for one man. Picture perfect, not exactly. Watch this one. Oh! Right in the wrong area to be hit with a baseball. Boston superfan Jordan Leandri says it all there, his face. The photographer says he's okay, and he got the picture a split second before he got it, right where he did not want it. That goes down as one of the worst first pitches ever.
Nobody wins in that situation.
No.
The guy's embarrassed. He threw the pitch. The guy who got hit is not feeling good. But it makes for fodder for the rest of us, I guess.
I've seen worse first pitches that have gone completely sideways, but as far as the target that it hit,
not good.
It's about as bad as it gets. Next, cat rescues like you've never seen.
Yeah, we'll introduce you to two men who are climbing trees, all to save furry felines. Stick with us.
Finally.
Well, might sound old-fashioned, I guess. Cats get stuck in trees, and men come out and climb up and rescue them.
Yeah, I think of the fire department on the long ladder, but here we're looking at something different. Arborists around Seattle going up to get cats out of trees. Professional arborists, brothers-in-law Tom Otto and Sean Sears, they're adept at climbing the trees, and the furry felines they rescue, they're not so good at getting back down them. So if your cat finds itself stuck in a treetop, it could cost you around $500 to get an arborist to help your pet find the ground.
There's a lot of people that can't afford to pay your normal arborist $500, $600, $700 to rescue a cat. Both Tom and I really love cats.
He's a total sweetie, ginger boy.
We'll come out.
Yeah, they do it in their spare time and completely no charge.
All right, we'll see you back here tomorrow night. Have a good one.